Yes, that is a horse walking into a bar, and it's not a joke. I know it sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke.
I just wanted to make a tune that you and me can fall in love today. I would hope that you and me both would like to throw around the tailbone, but in between the text.
Living outside of the USA has made me realize a few things. Well, actually, a lot of things, which I've talked about in a lot of my previous videos. So if you haven't seen those, if you're interested, you might want to check those out. But one thing I've realized, and it has been looming over my head for a while, is that how Americans, us Americans, I am part of this as well, that we are so obsessed with certain things. They're just basically some points that I've observed over the years, especially living in Germany. I had this realization. I was like, wow, I never realized that Americans, us Americans, are so obsessed with certain things. So if you are new here, I am Jay, my other half is Stefan. He's usually behind the camera, but today I'm flying solo. Half of the year we live in Germany and the other half we live here in Southern California. Today we are going to talk about some American obsessions, and I'd love to hear your opinion on these as well. So let's get right into it. A lot of the people around the world do not understand why Americans are so obsessed with guns. If you look at the history of how the USA was formed and the laws of this new land back then, or I guess I should say lack thereof, then you kind of start to understand this obsession, which exists today. It lingers on today for guns. But the issue, I think a lot of people around the world would also agree that was back then, but this is now. And the world has evolved, progression has taken over the world, but in a lot of ways, this obsession with guns is so freaking outdated. It seems to be just completely stuck in the past, and in some ways, it's actually even gotten worse than the past. Now, there are many reasons why this obsession with guns exists. I just did a video, I think it was a previous video, yeah, where I talked about this obsession with guns. And in that video, I talk about how this gun obsession is linked to political gains, monetary gains, the monopoly that's been created by the NRA. And a lot of Americans have this sense of freedom from owning a gun. Like it or not, a lot of Americans feel owning a gun is an important part of their freedom. They feel like they have the right to protect themselves when and if a need arises. Then there is this entire other part of it where it's become an important part of masculinity. The bigger the gun, the bigger, well, you know where I'm getting. And that's a part for me, I never really understood this, because for me personally, it's completely the opposite. A guy with a gun is literally the least attractive thing to me. But then again, that's just me. But I guess some people like the raw, toxic masculinity. Guns kind of easily roll into this obsession with politics. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and the right to petition the government. These are the 5 freedoms that US politics is surrounded by, and it's based on. And honestly, I appreciate the USA for this. This is why my dad moved to the USA. He could have gone literally anywhere in the world, but he chose to come to the USA. But over the years, Americans have become obsessed with talking about these freedoms. They have taken them to a completely different level. And I can tell you firsthand, based on my experience, that American politics is just stupid. 2-party system, and we are in 2022. I know some gung-ho American will counter the woodworks. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just a dumbass on YouTube. We have more parties than these 2 parties. Well, no shit, Sherlock. There are more parties, but the overall politics in the USA is still controlled by 2 parties, Democrats and Republicans. And I personally went from being a Republican to being Democratic to now being repulsed by all of this. It's a shit show that is just outdated. And political candidates spend millions and millions to talk nonsense and make false promises, and people eat this shit up. The words they use in their speeches have been recycled for decades, and now for me it's just comedic. A lot of Americans still believe in this, and they become so freaking obsessed to the point that they start fighting and creating divide within their families and friends. So all in all, I think it's a sad part of the USA, which is also funny. Well, funny if you are not surrounded by it all the time. And this obsession is now worse than ever. In 2016, things took a turn in the USA politically, and now there's literally no turning back. The country is divided and continues to be divided further and further as time goes by. Nationalists feel empowered, and they will do anything and everything to preserve their nationalism. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to politics, it's no longer obsession, it's far worse than obsession. There's so much more to life than American politics. Religion. Oh boy. Okay. Someone will also comment about this and be like, well, Europe or Germany specifically is way more religious than the USA. But we are not talking about people practicing religion. What I'm talking about here is how people are so obsessed with talking about religion every chance they get. If you haven't seen our video on religion here in the USA, then I think it's a must. It's an eye-opener. I had multiple WTF moments while doing that video. I think it's amusing, to say the least. So I will link the video at the end of this video so you guys can check it out if you want to. But American politics is so intertwined with religion here in the USA. Religion is used to manipulate votes. The word God is used literally everywhere. Again, if you look at the history of the USA, because an early part of the USA was formed by Puritan sect, who were basically kicked out of England. So they came to this new land claiming that they were escaping religious persecution. In reality, that's not true. They came here to practice religious intolerance. And to this very day, you see this in the form of the right-wing evangelical Christians. This religious obsession goes very deep. A huge part of America has been brainwashed for years. The funny thing is, though, that these types of Americans are the ones that are toting guns and do most of everything which is contradicting their religion. Then again, half the shit that they do religiously is all made up anyway. This obsession with religion in America has been there since the birth of this nation. Now, in the USA, wealth is measured by success, and success is measured by money and titles. If you are a VP or a CEO or a CFO or a COO, whatever it is, as long as you have an executive title, people will automatically look at you with wide eyes. Because of this constant race of chasing after a status to fit into the elite society, Americans overall have become obsessed with work. It's a show and tell. Who has a bigger house? Who drives a nicer car? And to the point, like, who has more credit line available on their credit cards? It doesn't even stop there. It also goes on to who has more successful friends. So story time. STEPHAN and I were hanging out in Los Angeles. This is a few years ago. So anyways, we were there having drinks, and this woman comes up and she's talking to us, and she literally asks us, "Are you guys anyone important?" So I told her, I was like, we're actually not important at all. We're a nobody. And she literally just turned around and she left. And we were both like, wow, we can't believe this just happened. She was just like way out there. She was at least honest about it, right? So that's one thing I give her credit for. She was just honest with her ridiculousness. But most people just hide it. So when you live in a society which constantly measures people's worth by their success, you can kind of understand why Americans are obsessed with work. That's one part of the work culture. Then there is complete opposite, where people obsessively work because they literally have to. They don't have a choice. So ultimately, the work culture here sucks. I know rest of the world thinks that Americans live to work, but in most cases, they have no choice. It's more like they work to survive. And this is something I really, really love about the USA. I find that Europeans are sometimes too realistic and sometimes a little pessimistic, whereas most of my German friends think that Americans are way over optimistic. And after living in Germany, I can kind of see that now. But I still somehow love this optimism in the USA. I can also see that being too optimistic can lead to false expectations and people lose touch with reality. I mean, I get all of that. But American life it's all about work hard, play hard, and always look on the bright side. The reason why Americans are so optimistic, it's because we are a society known for individualism. And individualism fosters need for constant optimism. The way I look at it, I think life is too short to worry about things. Life is too short not to be optimistic. Be optimistic and be a dreamer. That's what I always say to everyone. I was definitely way over the top optimistic, but I think living in Germany over time and also with STEPHAN in my life, I have more of a balance now between optimism and reality. And so, in my opinion, Americans are obsessively optimistic because if we were not, our lives would be sad. With this constant political turmoil, divide in the country, and mass shootings, we need optimism, especially now. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, this discussion. Let me know what your thoughts are. Today, I wanted to do something a little lighthearted. I hope it was lighthearted. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
I just wanted to make a tune that you and me can fall in love to it. I would hope that you and me both would like to throw around